Alright, in this video I'll be going over parallelogram law. You know that we said, let me just do a quick revision. You know how we said when two forces or two vectors are acting in the same direction, we just add them. So for example, 30 Newton and 50 Newton acting in the same direction, we're just going to add both of them to give a total or a resultant force of 80 Newton. But when they're acting in opposite direction, 30 Newton is acting towards the west or towards your left, and then 50 Newton is acting in the other direction. We're just going to subtract them to get the resultant. So the resultant is going to be what? 50 minus 30, and then you have 20. So we'll be left with 20 Newton in the direction of the larger force. So 20 Newton is going to be the resultant here. That's for antiparallel. Then for perpendicular forces, so one is acting, let's say for example to the north, and then the other is acting to the east. They are perpendicular, meaning that the angle between them is 90 degrees. We said we use what to resolve it? We use parallelogram law to resolve it. So we can decide to put 30 Newton here and 50 Newton here, whichever, and then find the hypotenuse. So whatever we find as the hypotenuse is going to be our resultant. So r square is equals to the sum of the squares of the other two sides, right? And then simplify. Whatever you get here is your answer for resultant. But remember that force is a vector quantity, meaning that you can also be asked of what direction it is going. So to find the direction, just put an angle here, right? Put an angle here. So you take the opposite over adjacent, that is 30 over 50 is equals to what? Tan theta. Simplify, take the tan inverse of 3 over 5, and you get your direction for theta. Now usually in JAMB, there is no sine, there is no tan, there is no cosine in your calculator. So many students might ask me that, okay, how do you go about finding tan when you don't have a calculator? Look, JAMB is not going to give you anything which you cannot use your calculator for. And if at all they are going to give you, they are going to give you the normal, the frequently used angles, what they call them, natural angles, or what. They are going to give you ones that will give you 60 degrees, 30 degrees, 45 degrees, what else? 90 degrees, 0 degrees. So you have to learn the value of tan, cosine, and sine for each of these angles. I'll teach you an easy way to do this later. Alright, so finally we've come to parallelogram law of forces, where two angles are not antiparallel, they are not parallel, they are not even acting at 90 degrees, but they are acting at an angle theta between 0 degrees and 90 degrees. So theta could be, for example, could be 60 degrees, but let's just leave it at theta. Now parallelogram law states that the adjacent sides of a parallelogram, if the vectors are represented by the adjacent side of the parallelogram, then the diagonal which acts at the intersection of the two forces, the diagonal of the parallelogram is going to be the resultant. Okay, so I'm just going to complete the parallelogram here, and wow, what kind of parallelogram is this? Anyway, let's just manage it like that. So this is also intersect somewhere here. All right, so we have force A here and force B here. Arrow is going to be the resultant, that diagonal of the parallelogram is going to be the resultant of these two forces. Now if here is a parallelogram, this side is going to be equal to this side, therefore here is also A as well. And then the angle here, what about the angle here? Now if you extend this line a bit, you see that this is an angle on a straight line, and if you observe, this angle here corresponds to the angle here, so this angle is also theta. And then angles on a straight line is equals to 180 degrees, therefore let's call this angle here alpha. So alpha plus theta is equals to 180 degrees. Therefore, alpha is equals to 180 degrees minus theta. Let's take note of this, please. All right, let's derive another formula. Now that we have gotten this, we are going to apply cosine rule on this triangle here to find the resultant. And what does cosine rule state? Cosine rule is just like parallelogram law, which is the resultant squared. Oh, I should have used another color. Okay, let me use another color. Okay, so the resultant squared is equal to the sum of the squares of the other two sides. How we are following? A squared plus b squared. Now it does not stop there. We're going to say minus 2ab cos the angle which is opposite arrow. What is the angle opposite arrow? Alpha. Cos alpha. So this is our second formula. Now you may be asked, what is the direction of the resultant? That is, what's the direction of the resultant. So the resultant is going to have its own direction. Note that for theta here, let me represent theta with a light blue color. So note that this entire angle here is theta. The direction of the resultant, however, is going to be this angle here. So we can represent the direction of the resultant as beta. How do we get this direction? It's very easy. We're going to apply sine rule. Now, sine rule states that the side all over sine of the angle opposite it is constant throughout the triangle. What do I mean by this? It means that this side, let's go. Take a side, for example. We can pick the resultant as a side, right? The resultant arrow. Take it over the sine of the angle opposite it. Sine alpha is constant throughout the triangle. So this is equals to the side of another side over the angle, sine of the angle opposite it. So side A, so I have A let me use a brighter color. A all over sine B is equal to what is the last side? Last side is what? B. Is equals to B all over the angle opposite it. B side B, we don't have any angle here, but it's not needed to find the angle of the resultant beta. I was just citing sine rule. So let's call the angle here, let's just call the angle probably gamma. So this will be equals to sine gamma, but we don't know what gamma is, so we are going to be making use of these two. Since at the end of solving, the angle alpha is going to be known, we are going to know our resultant. We are also going to know the side A, so we'll be left with the angle or direction of the resultant to find. So this is the formula we are going to use in this topic. Formula 1, or rather, this is formula 1 formula 2, and formula 3. With these three formulas, there's no question you won't be able to solve in parallelogram law. Trust me. Now, most of you, after I teach theory and concepts, you don't know how to apply it. You don't know how to apply the formula. Let me tell you, A and B are vectors. So they can give you, say, 50 Newton and 30 Newton, like in our previous example. So let's say A is equals to 50 Newton, B is equals to 30 Newton. And let's say the angle is 60 degrees. All you have to do is apply this first formula. So our alpha is going to be equals to 180 minus 60 degrees. So alpha is going to be equals to what? 120 degrees. Then you apply the second formula, arrow square, to find the resultant. Arrow square is equals to a square. That is 50 squared plus what? 30 squared minus 2 bracket 50 30 cos what? Cos 120 degrees or whatever. You simplify, you end up at an answer. Make sure when you're pressing your calculator, you are careful. Don't just go and minus. Some of you will go and minus 30 square from 2. That does not work. You have to deal with this side completely first and deal with this side as well. Then you subtract the result here from the result here, and then you arrive at something here, and then you get a final answer. Tell me what you got in the group chat. And then to find the direction now that we know resultant, so whatever we got here, we're going to substitute to this equation. The angle alpha, we're going to put it here. So we're going to have something like, so we know the resultant already. Sine 120 degrees is equals to, what is side A? Side A is 50 Newton, right? So 50 all over what? Sine beta. Cross multiply, we have sine beta is equals to 50 sine 20. This is going to be over your resultant, right? So when you're done, you get your answer, and then take the sine inverse of whatever you got. That would be your answer for beta. So do it and tell me what your answer is in the group chat. Now, do it. That's your first classwork.